go.
We are going.
We are playing. It is day 3.
Tuesday.
God only.
I was wrong. I don't have 17. I have 19.
James, stop stealing pens from the Paleo Society.
My
No,
question is,
it's
where
not.
do you keep pulling those out
It's
from?
paleobiology grade. I'm a man of many
No.
abilities. No, that's not the word I meant to say. Sure.
So we've got Anna and James here again. Woo!
I don't think we introduced ourselves on the first day.
It's just assumed. We all know.
My squeaky voice here, this is Anna.
You do not have a very squeaky voice at all.
Yes, it is.
Everyone thinks their voice is a weirder tone.
I sound
than
like a
it
gay
actually is.
horse.
It's not. It's
No.
done. Okay. Were you checking to see whether or not you had a pen actually hidden somewhere?
No, I was trying to give Anna my card.
Oh, were you kidding?
I know who you are and where you live.
That's true. Like, specifically, that is a threat she can actually give you.
I did. You were on a hill. It's not my fault. It's West Virginia's fault.
It is. Although, that has been completely tarmacked, and the road where they filled in the potholes badly, completely tarmacked.
Do you know the proper level of explosives to cause that hill to collapse?
No, I do not. If the FBI is
It's
listening.
50 millilitres of water, Curtis. It is almost nothing.
Yeah, fair enough.
The retaining walls in West Virginia are held up by the soil they're meant to be keeping back.
That is true, and I've seen it, and it's funny. I do fear for the Kroger parking lot and also the Kroger.
Okay, it's got a Starbucks. You'd love it. There's a Starbucks in the middle of it, in the most obnoxious place.
I love me some Starbucks in obnoxious places.
Yeah.
Fulfills 2 qualities in my life.
So I'm assuming for the rest of us, you just postcards?
Yeah, no, NSF have postcards. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Oh, wow.
Division of Earth Sciences with a striped reptile.
Okay.
My favourite one. Well, hello there!
Okay, a whale popping up saying hello there.
Why so crabby?
Yeah, okay. Not nearly as good as Rowan's crab gift that she can't.
Anna's favourite weevil.
I like it. I like it a lot, Fossil Weevil.
And some horn corals.
Very nice rugoses.
Yeah,
Yes.
there were several more, but they were all about geology, so I did not pick them up.
Fair enough. So I'm going to assume that we probably saw a smaller smattering of talks today.
I saw a couple.
Yeah, I got a few.
I saw a few that I really want to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me start.
This is really good, by the way.
The AWG lip balm
Slightly lemony.
is James is just doing advertising work for.
AWG.
No, it's real good. We were at the KU booth, and we walked up and just said, "Can we have some stickers?" And they go, "We're out of stickers." They don't know who we are. So we're out of stickers, big ones, but here's some small ones. And they said, "That'll do. What colour do you want?" Blue. Okay, blue. And then while I was sticking them on, I went, "Oh, this is lovely." And then we walked away.
So I started talking about food web stuff.
So generally, the KU people think, I don't even know if they know we go there, or we're just crazy people who walked up and just asked for stickers.
Yeah.
Honestly, yes. It's a weird situation, and there's some very dark hiring practices apparently associated with this that Matt was telling me about. But yeah, there's no one left around from when we were back as grad students at KU. And so none of those people are around and know that we were students.
Yeah. We're free.
We're free. Exactly. I still got a Jayhawk.
I put a J-Volk on my thing.
Yeah. But everyone there was confused as to necessarily who I was.
I claim PRI as well now.
Sure. I tried to get a West Virginia but apparently,
Yeah, Dorothy has some, but I didn't see Dorothy today. Probably partied too hard yesterday.
So anyway, which talk did you see first?
Food webs
Excellent.
of the Ordivision.
Please tell me about them.
You saw that too.
Let me see the... Oh, hang on. I can fix this.
What?
What did we really break?
No, we didn't break anything. He has his papers.
Wait, external break?
Yes.
Did you print out all the abstracts?
This is what happens if you tell the fucking stupid schedule maker to build you a fucking PDF.
It's okay because
It prints out all the fucking abstracts and nothing
Do you
else.
bleep this out? Because it'd be very amusing.
Because my app doesn't actually allow me to make a schedule.
Mine has this strange, convert to Excel, but I'm not quite sure my phone could do that, and it would probably,
That's
kill
what
it.
produces this.
Oh.
I deleted a bunch of things, like it told me what conference it was for.
Let me try it and see if it breaks my phone. I'm very excited about this. But yes, Food Webs.
Food Labs.
It tells me to click the plus sign to add to my scheduler and then doesn't actually allow me to add to my schedule. So, Food Webs of the Ordovician. The interesting thing about this is that this is looking at the Richmondian invasion, which is a period of time in North America where we get this invasion of the Cincinnati Basin from sort of taxa that were in sort of more northern positions in Laurentia, which is the continent that we now know of as North America. So historically, in the broadest senses, the Richmondian invasion from like Paczkowski and Holland has largely been viewed as a time period where even though there is an invasion of individual taxa, there does seem to be like a increase in overall diversity. But this was a more fine-scale analysis of the Richmondian invasion using essentially a network-based analysis based upon assumed guild structure. So are these things detritivores, are these things filter feeders, and so on and so forth. And one of the things they find is that when you start looking sequence by sequence, there's actually a reduction in the number of species, and a small, but still important reduction in guild structure. I think it's only like 3 guilds end up being lost, but overall the structure of how these sorts of things are moving matter and energy through the system remain more or less intact, but there is still a hit associated with the invasion. So in their study, at least for their network study, they're suggesting that it's not like things just keep growing and getting bigger. There is a kind of negative impact to the original community, and that the restructuring does result in some small amount of extinction and some hit on the community system. James.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Did you do this on purpose so you can dramatically turn around?
Oh, I hit my head real hard.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. So what data were they using for this? What did they pull from?
Oh god. I can't remember where the James, do you remember where the source of the data came from? I don't think it was a PBDB study. I think it was.
No, wasn't it a couple of sections?
Yeah, I think they were
Okay.
running sections. Because they were comparing across multiple time slices based upon their sections.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is possible that, like, because one of the things they were looking at is because they're looking in between the sort of two end members that people tend to look at for the Richmondian invasion, it's possible that, post-restructuring, you end up ultimately with more species at the end. But, like, in the process of restructuring, there does seem to be this, like, hit to the things that are actually there, even if it's minor. Like, it seems that they have only 3 guilds that are lost in the whole system, but it's still some number of species actually go extinct.
Right, and there's the addition, because we get a quaternary tier predator of Eurypterids, which is just going to be Megaloraptors.
Yes. Yeah, because Eurypterids come in at the first time in this
Yeah.
Richmondian invasion.
Yeah, which is interesting. Although, there are taphonomic aspects going on, because we know they're around, because we have them from one locality in the Darwinian, and it's the same clade, so presumably. So there'll be the occasional.
Sure, but they might not have been in Cincinnati, and we don't know that for certain, do we? Or in the Cincinnati Basin specifically.
Okay, what's Iowa?
Iowa would not be the Cincinnati Basin, I think. It's a little touch and go. It's certainly not the more Richmondian material, which the idea of the Richmondian invasion is that stuff's coming from sort of western coast of Canada, like the Mackenzie Mountains area.
Yeah, it's a minor point, and if it was a genuine concern, you could just do hard-bodied taxa only, which is going to be 99% of your data, and you'd probably get exactly the same result. So
Because I think there's the far east coast Cincinnati Basin stuff, and then there's like the Midwestern component, which is more similar to somewhat more similar to central Canadian areas, and that's like a separate basin. There's a mountain range in between them, but technically they can all kind of connect across.
Cincinnati Basin, and then Michigan to the north.
Michigan, Michigan Canadian stuff.
Yeah, and then there's one to the northwest.
But ultimately, all this stuff ends up getting kind of connected across in the center because Iowa, like these things are separated, but they're still connected because it's complicated.
Yeah,
there's a lot of flooding going on in this time period.
Mm-hmm. And there's static sea level changes because we've got an influx and changing of ice loading and things like that.
Well, and I think that's one of the thoughts for the Richmondian invasion, right? Is like certain areas get more flooded, connecting areas that might not normally have been connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it was very interesting.
As far as I remember, God, I can't actually remember specifically what incites the Richmondian invasion. And do you remember?
No.
Okay.
That wasn't.
Well, you've got some community stuff.
Yeah, I was east of there though, so that wasn't technically the Richmond.
Yeah, because you were.
I'm the Taconic Basin.
Yeah, which is a whole different setup.
Yes.
That's pre.
I used
that's
it
like
to compare to a little bit. So
what becomes the Appalachian.
First part of it, there's multiple mountain building in the Appalachians.
Yeah. So regardless, I'm gonna recant back just so that I'm not like I'm making a claim on climate, but there is some fundamental change that causes a movement.
Right. They do. There's a change in sediment provenance, so something does happen.
Something happens.
Yeah.
I just can't remember, and I don't want to make a hard claim.
No, that's good. You're being sensible. You unfortunately, you two are the ones that would know.
Yeah.
My Taconic basin is just the filling of the basin, so we have the siliciclastic influence. So that's all I got.
Honestly, most of the things I have worked on in the past have not been the Cincinnati Basin. They've either been north or south of Cincinnati Basin. Like in terms of things like specifically with these kind of like more fine-scale biogeographic studies, it's not been focused on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, we're doomed.
The other one is charging, so we could swap around and we can keep it going in a weird way like this.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's keep an eye on that.
Trying.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I fucked up this morning.
I mean, honestly, in a lot of ways, we all kind of share that.
Not Brendan. He went into the conference.
That's true. Brendan was like on time, knocking.
But he did the undergrad thing. He went into the 9 a.m. lecture and then he missed all his others because I didn't see him here.
That's true. He's probably still waiting to get a check at the pasty place.
Yeah. So that was a cool talk, and yeah, it was really interesting seeing this was the one where
Is it okay? Hi everyone.
So the real interesting thing
Welcome.
was that this is the one where all the players had changed, but the system was still the same.
Well, sort of. Again, this is where they still lost 3 guilds. And the actual quantiles, like the structure of the system fundamentally changes.
Okay.
What groups were loaded and weren't loaded were different. But ultimately, most of the system remained intact.
No, it's okay. Sometimes you need to lose some guilds to move to more advanced capitalistic-based structure.
So, then...
Germany joke.
Is it now? Carly and I are at Friends of the Cephalopods. James and Anna and I are at recording.
Tell him it's okay, he doesn't need to come. They should not have fun.
Yeah.
Because we're doing work.
It's in the chatty party. Have fun. Enjoy.
The what party?
We are.
Cephalopods.
I got it's in a chat. It's in the chatty part. You record already? ? Have fun. Enjoy. We are.
Yeah. I'll tell you something real funny afterwards.
After we record.
Yeah, after we're done.
The funny things are going to be saved for after recording. I think that's fair.
It's the James funny.
Oh,
What
okay.
happened if I just like scrambled all these papers?
Hilarious.
It'd be good because this didn't print. Why would it have page numbers?
So
you'd see a man turn to like.
you would watch a man crumble to
materials
dust.
in front of you.
But they will not be dust.
Fascinating.
Oh, this is going backwards in time.
Wow.
It was sad start on.
So then the next thing I saw was Heather's talk.
Which was excellent.
Yes.
It's very good.
I can't believe she's measuring all those multiple times. Or photographing them from
I can't believe that either. It's pretty impressive.
I can't believe she's found an alien cube
Yes.
and is doing things with it.
Well,
Tiny.
it's useful she hasn't been trapped inside of it and needing to escape. Yeah. But yes, Brutus Furifa.
Do you know what? She said these
Brutus
names.
Furifa.
She said the names a lot. And she said the names multiple times over the course of me learning about her research. I don't like that name.
Okay, that's fair. It is, however, a planktonic foraminifera that is
How
found.
does it function? Because it just closes itself. It does it.
Well,
Which
so
means
that-
it pulses and they move apart and come back
I
together.
had this question with Heather afterwards, and I asked, like, is it sexual or asexual and reproducing? And her answer was, because apparently no one has ever been able to culture it in a lab.
I do like the idea of taking a series of pentagons that are attached to each other into a pentagonal sphere and then just holding out and going, is it sexual?
But I wanted to know because one of the major patterns that she's saying is these morphospace shifts in occupation across the Cretaceous mass extinction event in these single-celled plankton. And what she sees is a restriction immediately after the event and then a sudden expansion in morphospace, what, about 2 million years after the extinction?
Yeah.
Yes, with a bit of data gap as we finish it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the best joke that nobody laughed at, which was, unfortunately, the ones below the event are a little crushed.
I laughed. Apparently, when you smash an asteroid into them, they don't like
It's
it.
weird when you're looking at the Yucatan Peninsula that you would expect all the British Spirifa to get a little bit damaged below the massive impact
Well,
site.
Well, that's because we're going with the modern understanding of asteroids. So when I visited Meteor Crater, they mined it for many, many years, expecting to find a whole intact
It's
meteor
true.
underneath.
It's true.
So it's a very recent understanding.
It's true. They didn't find pieces, though.
Yes.
They didn't find
Well,
pieces.
I was talking to Heather afterwards and she was saying that most of them are in clasts and they don't know how old they are because there's large chunks of the limestone pavement that was just shattered and then reworked.
Yes.
So it could be anywhere in the section. And the thing she said is that the trouble is that the ones that are in those clasts are smaller than the small ones before they get bigger. And so the thing to do is further work and look outside of the baseline and then work up from there.
Yeah.
So, but it's cool, and it's not technically the Lilliput effect because we don't know if they're getting small, but they are getting.
They're changing in size,
Yeah.
and the thing is that it seems like as time goes on, their variability in size is increasing.
Yes, it's the diversity that's the major thing. It happens that the median is increasing,
Yes.
but the spread is increasing a lot.
And this is done in a morphospace analysis, so it's not just size that's increasing, but also shape, but size seems to be explaining the lion's share of the data. And the question is how much of that is potentially an evolutionary radiation? Like, and this becomes complicated because you would want to know whether or not size was more variable, then less variable, then more variable again. But unfortunately, we have a giant impact site.
Quite unfortunate.
So what did you see after that?
Nothing until I get to digitizing Western Terrace
I
wasting.
really appreciate your desire to just blow all of his notes onto the ground.
My inspired chaos.
Yes.
But the digitizing effort is. I saw that one too.
Yeah,
I
You
like
sidled in next to me after
Yes.
having left me earlier.
It's not my fault. So this was almost like a summary of that. I
Okay.
don't know when it began. Jeez. Okay.
What?
What's the matter?
How do you drink water? No! Wrong!
How am I meant to do it?
Wait. Sorry, let me.
What? What? How do you do it?
I'm not gonna know!
This is not working on an audio podcast.
I've ruined your podcast.
No, you've enhanced it.
So I forgot how to drink once
What?
when I was younger. I just couldn't figure out how to do it properly. I had a drinking problem.
We've got the red light again. By the way, the batteries are
No,
low.
that's the recording.
No. On my side, I see the red battery light going. again.
No, the red battery light goes over there.
It's on the left side, right underneath the
No,
time.
that tells me it's recording to the card.
Oh, okay. Really?
How did you have a drinking problem when you were like 6 years old?
And I wasn't 6, I was like 14, and
Oh.
suddenly I'm like, why can't I drink properly?
There was a moment in time when I was maybe about 10 that I forgot how to tie my shoelaces just because I had done it too many times. Yeah.
So you're taking objection to the fact that I don't want water all down me, and I'm enclosing the cup, the water bottle.
The
You
yes.
want me to do this?
No!
No. This is just. I appreciate the need for the contact on both ends of the mouth.
Well, am I meant to do this?
No!
These are all great.
You need to show me what I meant to
I don't.
No, because you'd have to write another letter apologizing for drinking the water in the hotel.
I mean, at this
It
point,
would
in for a
almost be
penny, in
worth
for a pound.
do. It will almost be worth it because I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Okay, so what is this digitizing thing? I think
It's
this is the one talk I didn't see that you did see.
It's a project to digitize the western interior seawater sections across multiple institutions, from
Yes.
microfossils to macrofossils.
Okay.
Yes. Susan Butts was giving the talk, but it
Cool.
includes KU, Florida,
Okay.
Yale, a number of different places. She starts off showing all the big stuff that was easy.
Yeah.
Is it partly automated, or are they all doing basically picking in order to?
So they took a system that I believe was automated that was created by the American Natural History Museum, either that or the Smithsonian, where they're doing lots of butterflies, and then the system could identify, each individual butterfly in these spot photos.
Yeah.
But what they're doing instead is using that same system and then individually boxing fossils in, for example, conglomerates, individual shells. But they take one picture of the entire conglomerate blob using photo stacking on the Z photo stacking, and then individually drawing boxes around each individual fossil.
Okay.
And they're using, undergrads, volunteers, kind of this human force to do this en masse, and then taking the metadata from the conglomerate, which it was initially before they divided it up, and applying it to all these.
It's the broad secret across most algorithms. The reality is that there's a human being behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So they
That's
do,
overworked.
they do
Yeah.
check the data, like one person goes through it and vets it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They also do it with forams.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to see the universe.
Yes,
It looked like the universe. It was too many forams.
far too many. That was one slide.
Yeah.
I
I did have a question that I didn't ask Susan. I didn't get to see her afterwards, and I would have asked her, she'd probably punch me. But
I don't know if she would punch you.
the nodule is 3-dimensional, and so I wanted to ask her how they catalogue the ones inside.
That's phase 3. CT scanning all of them.
They did have some CT scans.
Yes,
CT
they
scans,
do as a part of the Western Seaway Project is making this available for our educators, especially with photographs and some 3D models.
Photogrammetry, I guess, rather than CT scans.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's all available to the public to be used. They can measure things for classes, have classes submit information about the stuff they did involving the fossils, which was interesting.
Yeah. So she wants researchers to use it, but also you can set it up so that your students can do
Select
data
from
activities.
select from a known list of fossils or create their own collections.
You
basically.
can search by common, like they've spent a lot of time using the iDigBio framework to do a fairly good interactive system. So you can search by like common name, you can search by ecology, you can search
by collection,
by
by institution.
Yeah, so you can pull this data, and it looks really cool, and it is an awful lot of work.
So just at their institution, I think they had like 98,000 specimens or something.
Okay.
And they had she gave numbers at the start of specimens. They knew they had estimated numbers.
Yes.
And they were always short by like
tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like when they actually did it, it's like, oh no, we got way more than we thought, and it's mostly those bulk specimens.
Mm-hmm. The lots. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you see the Paleo E&M for dinosaur extinction?
No.
Got it. I'll admit that I was rapidly handling emails at this time. So
class day.
Yeah, it's the way it works. Assignments are due, so all of a sudden I got all that. But what?
I'm looking at my emails that I haven't checked.
Yeah, sir. So this was looking at the question of if we take a look at the KPG mass extinction, the Cretaceous Paleogene mass extinction event, and we can look at things that go extinct and things that survive. If we were to project ecological niche models of the things that go extinct versus the things that survive before and after the extinction event, how would those niche models change? Like if we were to project the things that were alive in the Cretaceous but go extinct in the Paleogene, where are their ranges? And the expectation would be, well, the things that go extinct might experience a significant loss in their niche space and possibly a loss in geographic range. So one of the things they find is that there's not like a ton of effect on geographic range, assuming that these things could live in similar environments. And almost everything, whether or not you are going extinct or a survivor, experiences some form of of niche reduction or like a kind of limiting of your total amount of available ecospace associated with the extinction event. It doesn't matter if you're a survivor or if you're going extinct. So what they were suggesting is maybe there are more fundamental things, more complicated things, like maybe biological interactions going on to explain some of the extinction patterns. But it's not just like, oh, these habitats or these preferred environments are gone in the Paleogene. They're still there. I mean, granted, there's an element of like, clearly there's a short-term time period of an extinction period where everything could be more preferentially affected. Which I don't think they're actually acknowledging, or rather, I don't know if they are directly acknowledging that in their data.
I understand why you're doing this. I'm intrigued. The KPG seems like the worst one to do it because that is literally a giant rock fell from the sky.
Yeah, rocks fall, everyone dies.
And that seems to me like it's going to fundamentally operate differently to other times of environmental shifts.
Yeah, because it's not a long-term shift in environment that might have that kind of sustained impact millions of years afterwards.
Yeah.
Like it is a nuclear winter hypothesis, and therefore I would expect the change to be reversed relatively quickly.
Yeah, and it's just the snap of...
And that's where I felt like the thing when they started talking about, like, maybe it's biological, I'm like, yeah, sure, maybe in the sense of like base of your food chain goes, and these things that depend on them also go, but I'm not entirely certain that like we're still not getting away from the fact that it's like a blink and everyone dies moment, which is probably the best example of a blink and everyone dies moment for a mass extinction event.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was at least interesting. It was an interesting way of looking at it, being like, if these things were able to survive in the Paleogene, would they have been in a more restricted environment than these things that do survive? And the answer is no.
I mean, theoretically, even if...
It makes it way more contingent.
Right, and even if the cause of extinction in part is because you are breaking down the biological pump of the ocean system, or you have lost the majority of your prime producers on land, fundamentally, though, your E&M model might not pick that out because your abiotic stuff is going to return to what it was before.
Yes. Yeah, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then that's where they're talking about this whole biological system being necessary to understand it. Because if you shut down productivity for a brief period of time, that is going to have impacts up, cascading impacts up the ecosystem.
Yeah. Cool. I didn't see anything until Alicia's talk.
Okay. Then the other thing I saw was a really interesting study on machine learning.
Did you see it?
I saw a couple of Grand Canyon talks. So they were looking at the Cambrian stratigraphy there. One talk was naming a new formation or clarifying a formation name. Mm-hmm. And the other one was comparing or doing some more looking at the lithology changes and the biota changes from east to west along the canyon. So they were doing some preliminary counts and stuff of the fauna and comparing them actually to the Spence Shale.
Cool.
Like Oneida Narrows and Spence Gulch in Idaho. So just the composition of the fauna at each locality and how that shifts from an onshore to offshore environment as they were interpreting it. So
That's interesting.
well, trilobites, glossoplurazone, so
Nice.
but mainly. But
You're going to go there and camp out until you find a lava shot?
well, it looks like they were like rowing down the canyon, so that looked kind of fun. I'd like to do that.
That does sound fun.
If you're interested in working the Permian, there's also good places in Utah where you can do that in the Green River.
Ooh.
Yeah, just other advice. That sounds cool. So they didn't necessarily talk for this machine learning thing. The thing they were actually interested in looking at was the impact that climate change has had on deep sea corals. Because we have focused a lot on our shallow coral systems, but we haven't focused a lot on our slightly less biodiverse, but still just as negatively impacted deep sea coral systems, because they're going to be just as much affected by ocean acidification. And because we haven't focused on it, our record of diversity is pretty limited. And so they looked at a lot of different factors and variables that could affect the distribution of these things. And what they found is that there's really 4 variables that we've thankfully been keeping up some amount of record for since about 1960. The big broad variables that explain the lion's share of the variability. We've started getting a lot better at more fine details, but those fine details still don't really explain the vast majority of the reason why certain things are where they are, which is cool. So it means that even though our record is patchy, and even though we haven't been doing a great deal of detail collecting data, we can use these machine learning algorithms to fill in some of the data, because ultimately at the end of the day, the variance is explained by about 4 variables. And so they managed to use machine learning algorithms to try and fill in our very patchy data from about 1960 till now to understand the distribution of these various important deep sea reefs and to check their abundance data. And one of the things they find is that honestly things are going really well until they fucking aren't. And it's rapid and terrifying because it's going really well. 2008, all of a sudden dramatic drop in diversity, and then it stabilizes at the lower level and doesn't change, doesn't go back up again.
Alternative stable state.
Yes, it is literally stable state equilibria. It is a sudden and violent shift into a new stable state due to a turning point or a tipping point. And then they see in another reef it's happening in 2009 and the same thing. In another reef it's 2015 and it's the same thing. And basically what they suggest is that these deep sea reefs can rapidly destabilize in a pattern of up to about 4 years. And then they don't return. They become a new stable optimum. And so this is a terrifying thought for how we can very rapidly lose a massive amount of biodiversity.
Oh.
Yeah. That was a really good, terrifying talk. Speaking of really good, terrifying talks, then there was Alicia's talk.
It had otters.
It did have otters.
There was a poster on otters today, but it was a sad poster.
Oh.
It was lead loading and river otter and long bones, I believe.
Wait, lead in river otter long bones? Are river otters more preferentially pulling in lead?
I don't know, I just looked at the poster and saw a
There's
picture
just a
of
big
an otter.
picture of an otter, that's as far as we got.
Okay.
And then do you know what the really funny thing is? Like 2 hours later, Brendan just sent me a photo of that picture of that otter. Because he'd just seen them.
I somehow missed the otter poster.
Yeah.
And I feel sad now.
I can show it to you because I have the photo that he sent me.
That's fair. But Alicia's otter photos was more self-referential for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it was the otter photo.
Yes.
If I want to be really pedantic, it really, really sucks with early access. Because I'm sure there will be citations citing that as a 2017 paper.
Yeah.
I've done it, and it's a 2018 paper.
I know, but it's okay, but it doesn't matter because Google Scholar counts it the same way.
Okay. I've done the same thing. I think I have a publication out where I called it a 2017 paper. Lead burden and long bones and river otters. That's a very big otter.
It is a big otter.
Chonk.
It's a very big otter. So yes, I appreciated that Alicia spent some time just to say how much she loves the otters.
Yeah, well, she told me that she was going to use it in her classes when it came out, so I'm glad that...
It warmed my heart to see the pink hearts coming off of those otters, and also to see the way that she subtly improved our figure.
Yes. Well,
How did she subtly improve it?
she mapped in micro evolution, which is a very clever thing to do.
Yeah, which we had technically kind of done in the sense that we mapped natural selection.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yes. The other thing that I always like about the pink hearts is that I spent $350 so that they're going to be pink in the print version of the paper.
I love how you justify to yourself as every time we have demon things, it's the same color pink, so we need it. And then I was like, we can't use that justification. So I did the actual justification that I had, which is we need the yellow because we need to be able to identify this between gray, because the gray just makes it blend together, it doesn't pop. We want to focus the people and focus the attention that's natural selection. And that didn't sell it, so they needed to actually spend $300 on that.
So this is embarrassing, but because I have read the paper this is based off of, I only went to this talk to see if she showed our figure.
Wow.
It was a good talk.
It was a very good talk. It was looking at the hierarchy of invasion, getting back to that idea of the Richmondian invasion, and asking whether or not the scale of the biotic interchange matters in terms of the effect that it has on the biosphere. And hey, it's almost as though the greater amount of signal, the more of a kind of ebb and flow you're going to have from an evolutionary and an ecological standpoint. It's like if you have a bigger signal, it might have a much larger effect on the evolutionary history than relatively small scale signals that are going to get sort of muted out due to, let's say, emergent properties of interacting complex systems.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's the reason why the otters were there at the very beginning. Our paper did actually have a relevant link to that paper.
It's a third hierarchy.
Third hierarchy.
The third leg on a tripod.
The hierarchy of biogeography.
Yes.
Which she did actually, she had a ternary diagram, and I was very happy about that. With a brachiopod in the center just for...
It was really nice seeing the third point that I've always ignored throughout my career.
History?
No,
Biogeography. Yeah, history.
No, you can't have history twice.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't. You can't do history twice, Curtis.
You're not there to do it.
You can't do history twice.
You look.
History happens once.
Like 50% of success is just showing up. That's the biogeography component.
Yeah, but if you no, 50%, it's okay if you're like the high school rugby team, but 50% of success showing up when you're fighting another high school rugby team, fine. But if you're going to have against the All Blacks, like that's a 0% of success whether you turn up or not.
You lose 100% of the fights you don't take. And 100% of them that you are horribly, horribly mismatched against. So this scaled up through time in that idea of like, a few individual species get over, but that doesn't really change that much. Richmondian invasions, maybe in this kind of like middle tier where maybe it disrupts things, maybe it adds to biodiversity, and then we get like more broad scale, like whole basin level invasions and a shutdown speciation, and then we get, kudzu everywhere and the ultimate.
I was thinking of it as in like, when you see the adverts for salmonella spreading from your hands on the chicken, and so like the bottom level is like there's a salmonella bacteria, it dies, it doesn't matter, it hasn't done anything. Local areas where there's like you can see spots of it where your fingers have touched something. Then there's like the step above where the cutting board is covered. The next one's your kitchen, and the final one is your entire house lights up in salmonella.
I feel like it's like a lower key version of the radiation idea that we had in our paper. So that was good. That was a good time.
Yeah, that was good.
And then there was lunch.
And there was lunch, and after that I saw several talks, but only 2 that I wanted to.
I think it's important to note that for whatever reason, 3 of us ordered yakisoba, and only one of them got that immediately, and the rest of us sat there.
Y'all were too polite to like eat without me, even though you should have.
No, it would have been fun. We waited so long, we got that table.
That's true.
I was getting real angry at 2 people sitting there by themselves.
So actually he was getting really angry at 2 other people sitting there by themselves, and then a few other people showed up, and he was like, wow, it'd be really shitty for somebody to get so angry at people without understanding the context of that situation.
I'm glad we learned a valuable life lesson.
No, we didn't.
It took a freaking long time.
It really did. So I saw, when I got back, I saw Selena's talk.
I saw it at APC.
Oh, you did? Okay.
It was the same.
It was her big review of everything that I've been doing for the last, 10 years. In my lab.
Sure.
It was a 20-minute talk of, here's a bunch of projects I've been working on. Like if you've got diagenesis and how it might affect these things, and then we're going to compare macroinvertebrate stuff, and then we're going to it ultimately was it was a bit too large for the talk, and so it was ultimately she had to kind of cut half of it to finish, but it was cool. Some of the things were very interesting. There was regional patterns of diagenesis where parts of the bones were more diagenetically altered than others for the kind of carbon isotope work you want to do, and comparing that with looking at phosphate versus carbonate to try and find your oxygen isotopes, because one of those might end up being more fractionated than the other. So if you see disconnects between the oxygen in both of them, that's a way to tell diagenesis.
Cool.
Anyway, beyond that, I didn't really see anything until one other talk.
Okay, I saw 2 talks that I will talk about. I saw Dustin Paraguay's talk.
Oh, okay. What was that about?
Basically, working in Corey's lab, people have been trying to look at common cause mechanisms of mass extinctions.
Okay.
And they've been looking at the event, the basically the cause. What if you look at the environment beforehand? Is there something about the environmental setup that means that any event that would stress the system is going to tip it over the edge.
So, like, is it less to do with the actual cause of the extinction and more to do with the setup that puts you into an unstable equilibrium state?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were looking at a number of different things like the environmental proxies, like stable isotopes for oxygen, carbon, strontium. So weathering rates, geostatics sea level, continental shelf areas, habitable areas, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Looking at 2, 5, and 10 million years prior to mass extinctions. There's not enough Devonian data, so that was sort of thrown out. The answer is, at the moment, no.
Fair enough.
Although, and I find this very interesting, sea level regularly fluctuates before a mass extinction.
Sea level regularly fluctuates throughout the entirety of Earth history.
Sea level fluctuations cause erosive events which might lead to a signal of a mass extinction. This is not something that's in the talk, but this is something that...
Are you thinking of just like an accidental pulse because of a lack of end member? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they were using the two curves, the Barnback curve, which shows nothing, and the Alroy curve, which shows maybe something.
Okay.
But then the thing is, it's like, okay, do we believe the Alroy curve? There's more modern methods that are used because that curve is by this point almost 10 years old. And we should maybe look at that again using methods that, like, Alroy doesn't use those methods anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe as well the curve could do with some revision. So that was basically it, but it was very interesting. It's more like 5 years, not 10.
Yeah.
But yes, it's still a change. It's been a time. And so sea level fluctuations maybe.
Sorry, I was just thinking in my head criminals have taken dihydrogen monoxide before every crime. I understand the fluctuations in sea level could, like, an extreme sudden fluctuation in sea level could actually change something to do with nutrient cycling or carbon cycling that could affect the biosphere. Or, as you were mentioning, a significant alteration in sea level fluctuation could then cause an erosive period.
Yeah. And that was something that I suggested. I also suggested it would be interesting to look at alternative measures of severity.
Yeah.
But I think I'm trying to suggest massively over-parameterizing the model. So
Possibly, yeah. Again, all models are wrong. Some models are useful.
Yeah. Did you say anything?
No,
Okay. And the other talk I saw was Mary Police's talk.
What was that on?
Dogs! Dog talk.
I suddenly woke up.
Yes. What?
You knew I was going to see dog talk.
They did not.
Okay.
Does this dog talk have a dog with pizza in its mouth?
No.
Okay, well that's unfortunate.
But it was basically looking at ecomorphological selectivity of North American canid extinction. This is work done with Leo van Valkenburg.
Okay.
But basically, we expect that large carnivores are going to be more susceptible to extinction.
Okay.
That's what's been suggested. It's not true. Extinction is random across dog ecomorphs, right until the end Pleistocene, when the big ones die.
Interesting.
And so large predators go extinct at the end Pleistocene, otherwise they don't care. So there's no higher extinction risk when you look at it as a whole. But when a clade gets big, it is more likely to go extinct.
Wait. So, when individual species in the clade become larger, each individual species is more likely to go extinct? Is that what you mean?
No.
When the clade becomes more diverse, it's more likely to go extinct?
No.
What are
the other options?
No.
Either the individual species are getting bigger in size, or the clade is getting more diverse. What is the way the clade is getting big, James?
No, when the species in the clade, when species in a clade start getting big and the clade crosses a size threshold.
Yes,
that
okay,
clade
so
is-
the first one that I just said and you said no to.
Yeah, but the individual species aren't more likely to go extinct. The clade is more likely to go extinct.
But the clade goes extinct by the species going extinct.
Right, but there's
But it's not
no
an
trend.
individual
There's no
species.
trend. But there's no trend in selectivity as a whole. It's only within the clade.
Weird.
So it's ratcheting.
Statistically, how does that work if
It's
each one...
anyway, it's ratcheting.
Okay.
So
Well, that's, I guess it's a kind of left wall thing.
with
But that would still require some things to be less likely to go extinct if they're smaller. Right? Or rate of going extinct is the same, but as soon as you get big, there's no possibility of going small. That's another way.
yes, it's ratcheting.
That's the way for you to get
Yes,
bigger,
yes,
and then eventually
Yes,
you have to go
each
extinct.
clade is ratcheting once it hits a certain body
Yeah.
size.
Yeah.
And then it goes to extinction.
And then extinction might be random, maybe slightly elevated for larger things,
Yeah.
but ultimately not on a species level, but on a
Yeah.
clade level.
Anyway, Marion tied this into the trophic downgrading that's going across all groups
Okay.
into the modern. But was looking then at the three major clades and basically saying, so you expect there's going to be a trend in like diversification rates with temperature changes.
Yeah.
And then the two that go extinct, they ignore it completely. The only one that does show diversification trend with temperature changes is the canine, the modern dogs. So they're the only ones that seem to be responding to anything. Everything else is ratcheting into size, ignoring what the environment's doing, and then going extinct.
Interesting.
And then basically this was all very interesting, and this is what should be doing. But now it's like, let's look at broader scale. There's a talk at SVP, which something none of us will see, looking at this further. So yeah, like as a whole, dogs show no signal. Individual clades will ratchet and go extinct. And it's,
Thereby showing a signal.
yeah, and the things that are ratcheting and getting big not responding to the environment anymore. They're doing their thing because they're locked in.
I kind of love that because it ultimately comes back down to scale, right? Like at higher scale, you see a different pattern than you see at a lower scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, I thought that talk was really good.
Cool.
I really liked it.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah. That was the last talk I saw.
I saw a talk on erosional patterns in drainage basins
Okay.
across North Carolina. So, human beings modify our environment. And especially as agrarian individuals, when we're building up farms, we might fundamentally change the position where rivers originally were starting from. And in a lot of land that has originally been used by humans, because let's just face it, the entire east coast of North America is entirely altered landscape. It is no longer unaltered landscape.
Okay.
And so we have a lot of rivers that are not actually in their original position. The stream heads, the channel heads of these rivers have been fundamentally altered due to land use changes. But some of these areas along some of these river basins are no longer being used for, let's say, agrarian purposes, and the land being reworked, and they've been brought back to sort of park-like conditions. And in one of these types of areas, they were looking at, well, okay, one of the things we're seeing is a lot more erosion than expected, because what's actually happening is the erosional patterns of precipitation are causing those stream channels to carve back up the surface to their original position. Meaning a lot of sediment is starting to get into these river systems and into the bay areas and the coastlines. So the question was, how far is this going to go? Where is the original river basin channel deposit? Where's the natural position for these to go to? And when they do that, how much sediment is that going to cause to suddenly be, let's say, rapidly placed into some of these nearby coastal bays? The short answer to that is a lot, because it turns out they did estimates on this one small part of the Neuse River Basin, part of the Crabtree Creek Basin, because again, Raleigh, North Carolina, we're looking at the river basins that are close to us, and in these one small little packages, we're seeing significant movement up slope to where the river channels kind of want to start. In order to get to that point, you need to start eroding through a lot of sediment, which if you look at what that sediment's made of, it's made of carbon, it's made of nitrogen, it's made of phosphorus. Guess what? Those are all things that are like, let's say, limiting reagents in the ocean. A lot of those can cause massive toxic algal blooms. And so as those are moving up, they're going to add 97 dump trucks worth of carbon per individual river stream. And there's like 20 of these that I'm looking at. Oh, and 4,000 bags of fertilizer worth of nitrogen into the river system per stream. So this was a fascinating idea of like we fundamentally altered the shape of the planet in order to like suit our needs. And then as we've been like, okay, well now we're no longer doing that, the ramifications of that are still impacted, at least as far as I understand this data, because I have definitely someone coming at this from outside of this. But the idea was, here are all these channels which they looked like this at one point, but they've been steepening over time because we're seeing them erode. And that means that sediment that was there has to go somewhere, and it goes into the river and into these like nearby bays. So this is an interesting source of carbon and nitrogen and phosphorus into the ocean system at a more accelerated rate than we naturally expected as these systems self-equilibrate themselves. That was pretty cool.
It's very cool.
So is the issue that the new sediments are poorly consolidated, so the water settles back into its natural gravity?
I think I'm not entirely. I would need to talk to Rachel about that one specifically, but essentially it is like we have fundamentally. It was all about anthropogenic effects on the landscape and seeing the like long-term impacts of that, because we've changed where the river channels were. And now they're going to find a new equilibrium place. And that's resulting in an increase in erosion through these areas that were originally fields or whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's cutting a lot more sediment into the system. And again, the talk was more just like, how much are we pumping through here? And it was like, oh, here's this much nitrogen. What's that a good metaphor for? Well, an average 35-pound bag of fertilizer has this much nitrogen. So this is 4,000 bags, 4,035-pound bags of nitrogen being dumped into the river system if it erodes eventually up to its original stream channel point. I was like, oh, okay. That's a source of organic pollution I hadn't even considered.
These bays are pretty important, you know.
Kinda. They're pretty important.
You can end up with zebra mussels everywhere.
Yeah. So again, I don't understand. I fully cotton to not understanding the long-term ramifications of this and exactly how and why this is going on. But the sheer bulk walk-away message from this was pretty...
Well, let me tell you what happened to the UK after we got record rainfall in January.
Yes.
And so we had water that was 10 feet high. And it stripped the topsoil off.
Yeah.
And this is the thing I really like. For the month of the two weeks that were the end of January and the start of February, our sedentary output was higher than that of the Ganges.
Yeah.
3 months later, we had algal blooms. 2 months later, all the seabirds washed up dead.
Yes. So that was the other next stage of this analysis, was how much does climate change potentially accelerate these rates? Or potentially change the position of, again, those natural headwaters, because if you're getting more rainfall, maybe they move a little further upslope, or they change their position a little bit. Yeah.
Was there talk of solutions?
No.
Scrubbing, or how about we just make a concrete channel and put the river where we want it?
No, I mean. No. Yeah, not quite.
Aqueducts.
I'm
Bring
sure.
back the Romans.
I'm sure that there are plenty of people at NC State who are very interested in looking at these potential ramifications in the ocean system. So I don't know if there has been collaboration across this, because this is mostly coming from the geomorph side of like what's happening to the landscape. But fundamentally, we've had talks from other faculty at NC State being like, and so after a storm, these are all the algal blooms that start coming out, and like, what's the impact of like major storm systems on the ways in which the carbon cycling moves into our ocean and fundamentally changes our algal bloom structures?
It's not like we're increasing the magnitude of our storm.
Oh, heavens forbid.
Heavens to Betsy.
So yeah, that was a very interesting little talk. I had not even considered the idea that fundamental land use changes are going to change so much about the drainage system that when that system finally equilibrates, it's just going to be like a massive flood of nutrients into a system, which is terrifying, taking it from a biological standpoint. But again, this was a little more geomorph, but they were definitely being like, here's the nitrogen, here's the phosphorus, what does that mean? With the implication being like, for everyone who's biologically minded, like, oh no, nutrient cycling is gonna get messed up.
Throw just bricks of things like alkali into the water and try to balance it out.
Well, this kind of goes back to Michelle's talk about, like, the thing that Michelle started her talk. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but we were so tired we couldn't get through it.
We missed one thing yesterday, which we should talk about isotopically. When the young are suckling, they're basically eating their mothers, so they have the same isotopic content as their mothers. Anyway, you were talking about something else.
Yes, that was the reason for that was the reason for the nitrogen. They're increased in nitrogen because they're eating their own.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when Michelle started her talk about endosymbiotes, one of the things that was interesting about it was she was focusing on these phenomenon like, Hudson Bay and these other areas, or was it Chesapeake Bay or Hudson Bay? I can't remember which.
Long Island Sound.
Long Island Sound, which is what she was looking at specifically. But there are so many different instances, not just Long Island Sound, across the East Coast, where a significant amount of organic pollution coming from rivers into these very placid bay areas results in periods of extreme anoxia, where there's just so much nutrients that a few algae sort of take over and they die and decay and they shut down oxygen production in those areas and they make them incredibly anoxic waters. And so one of the concerns with an incredible amount of nutrients throwing into nearby shores is you can create these patches of massive anoxia.
Excellent.
Yeah.
More water show.
Through sort of shells.
Yeah, it's less cool.
And
Maybe
worms love anoxic
Worms.
conditions.
Worms and shrimps are two favorite things.
They are my favorite thing. Well, that's unfortunate.
I appreciate that you're looking forward for the future paleontologists.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to look out for the future paleontologists.
Whatever their species may be.
As a future
As a voice of future paleontology.
future leader of
Oh, no.
paleontology.
Well, once she develops the time machine, and then she can leave to the point where human beings have finally wiped themselves off the planet, and then we have a diverse fossil record and life teeming, she can start studying it as a future voice in paleontology.
It's quiet now.
Just me and my worms. From the massive phosphorus that we dumped into them.
Wow, that's
Maybe the worms will get big and you can name them properly.
Yes.
Hello, Anna.
Where's the rom-com music?
Yes. Sorry, Anna and I had a running gag of a meet greet
Yes. 'Cause I'm going
between her and her specimen organism, but it's just gotta be a worm.
Yes, because now I've ended up with worms for the rest of my life. It's gonna be a romantic moment where I just turn and it'll be there.
And there's the worm.
Well, one time.
Exactly!
Do you have anything else to add?
Were there any interesting posters?
Yeah, there were a few. I feel weird because a few of them had you on them.
So I saw a post by Alison Cribb.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
really cool. looking at basically
It's good to look it up.
no, I want to be right.
Yes.
Ichnofossils.
Yes, it's ichnofossils, but it was specifically ecosystem engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So basically things like increasing not turbidity.
Tiering,
No.
complexity.
No.
Describe in words what you want to talk about.
Cubes.
Yes, the cubes of the different things, but they're churning the sediment, things like that. Oxygenated.
Aerating.
Aerated, yes. Basically, changing the environment and creating feedback loops that leads to more things, and then increasing sort of behaviour and complexity of behaviour through that. So looking at that through the recovery of from the Permo-Triassic, and it's interesting, and it's not been done before, and it's what she's doing for this is like a minor project, but what she's doing for like her main research is cataloguing when behaviours first appear and where, and then looking at the spread of these complexities, and it's really cool and it's very interesting. And looking at it from an ecosystem engineering perspective is basically looking at how the biosphere creates a feedback in other systems to expand the biosphere further. And I think it's a very cool idea.
That is cool.
Yeah. So I talked to her a while about that poster because I'd seen it at NAPC, but not been able to talk to her about it, and so.
I mean, if we view things very long term, like there's plenty of good examples in the geologic record of positive feedback loops within the biosphere, self-perpetuating the biosphere, like the oxygenation of the atmosphere, even though in the short term it is probably a mass extinction event, is a long-term positive feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that was cool. There was the Sad Otter poster I didn't look at because it would have been sad. That's those that I then was bouncing around posters that I was helping curate.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Saw some mammal diversity shifts across some geological sequences, which was an interesting data set that's still in the process of being built up. Was talking about potential, similar to what you were saying with the sort of Haskowski and Holland stuff, like potential ways that the possible stratigraphy could be influencing some of those first occurrences and last occurrences. But it was cool. It's interesting. It's definitely a preliminary, like, this is what I'm working on kind of thing. Let's see where this goes. Yeah. Beyond that, I didn't see too much else. Well, I guess that's day 4.
Pasties were really good.
Day 3?
Day 3.
Day 3. Pasties were really good. Probably so far one of the best meals I've had here.
Yes.
Yeah. That and the Mexican restaurant, which y'all didn't go to. Airport. The airport has a version of it as well.
Okay.
El Barrio.
You are not moving up.
No, that does not help me, but that's okay.
That's fine. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. But you're driving, so
I am.
you're eventually going to hit up, like, Sedona and the Grand Canyon, right?
No, I'm not gonna make it up to that far.
Okay.
Just Sedona this time around.
Okay.
But I'll someday paddle down and see what my king
I once had a dream about that.
What?
Paddling down the Grand Canyon, or
Being-
Anna paddling down the Grand
No,
Canyon?
One is much stranger than the other.
Guess which one?
Yeah.
No, being down, like paddling down a canyon, it was very relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was better than the anxiety dream I had around the same time of wanting to make a sandwich, but the lettuce was wilted, but I really wanted the sandwich, but the lettuce was wilted, so did I put the lettuce in the sandwich, or did I throw the lettuce away and have a sandwich without lettuce? So that was not as good a dream.
I like the fundamental, like, stopping block here being a sandwich without lettuce.
Yeah.
It is.
Truly the most terrifying thing that you can imagine is a sandwich without lettuce.
Considering I'm probably going to get scurvy because I don't eat vegetables or fruits.
Okay, just so you know, onions and peppers are vegetables, so that's fine.
How about garlic?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Yeah, like onion, peppers, and garlic are like the three things I eat, and they're vegetables. So I just have those with bread, pasta, or meat. That's my food.
And lettuce.
In the wraps I make, yeah.
Yeah, only
sandwiches.
sandwiches, yeah.
Dream sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't use lettuce for anything else. What are you talking about?
Okay, so apparently you have a lettuce conspiracy. That's nice to know.
No, I mean, you don't put lettuce in things.
Salad.
Oh no, salads are fine. They're fine. But, yeah. But no, lettuce is unless, yeah. What else would you use it for?
So I think that's going to do it for tonight. Don't trust your lettuce.
Yes, because then you have a salmonella
Don't
metaphor.
don't trust your lettuce. The majority of food poisoning is your lettuce.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That or bean sprouts.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the sprouts that you put on your salad.
Yeah. So everyone remember when the government shut down for a few days and Rocket tried to kill us?
I thought you were going to say that the birds stopped appearing.
Birds are CIA. I didn't say that.
Only some birds.
I kind of want the T-shirt that has Big Bird and the Terminator skull.
What's the one, like the bird watching one? It's like while you're watching them,
They're watching you, and it's just got like an antenna and a chirp chirp.
Well, they were trying to stop everyone from getting into Area 51 because they'd seen all the pigeons.
Yeah, exactly.
Birds are watching you all the time.
Well, yeah. Mostly because they're bored.
Birds are always watching and waiting, and maybe you'll have food. And anatophobia is the fear that somewhere a duck is watching you. So
They should really be fearful of geese.
geese are just big ducks.
Yeah.
Ducks are happy. Geese are angry.
What about swans?
Real fucking mean.
Yeah, but in a kind of passive-aggressive sort of way.
No, in an aggressive kind of way. They hiss at you. They'll beat at you. They tell you in England that they can break your arm with their wings, and so they just teach you that to be afraid of them as a kid. And then in Windsor once, when the waters rose, the waters rose over the walls of the Thames, and the swans just took over the fucking town. They went everywhere. The swans were like, this is our place now. You can't even shoot us because the Queen owns us.
This is our house. This is our
Wait,
land.
the Queen owns all swans?
Queen owns all the swans.
Oh.
Every swan?
Yep.
In the world?
They're only in England.
Wait. Are you saying swans only exist in England, or the Queen only owns all the swans that are in England?
Mute swans appear in England.
What happens when they migrate?
Mute swans
does the
don't
Queen...
migrate
Why not?
because England's great. No, because we feed them and they don't go anywhere. When have you seen Canada geese migrate? Lazy fuckers are just everywhere now. Like, yeah, no, this is good. We're just trying to us in this field. They're coming in. Don't step at us. We'll fucking bite you.
All right.
Canada geese don't like Canada anymore. No, America's where it's at. It's just going to get worse. It's going to be in Mexico. You never get them out.
But if they did migrate, would the Queen still own them?
Yes. The sun never sets.
Everywhere where there's a swan is the English Empire.
Yes. We're watching through the swan.
Again.
Yeah.
Government conspiracy.
See, America just doesn't have its birds. See, Canada, its geese are everywhere. British swans, everywhere. Bald eagle, only America. America's only spying on itself.
Did you see that, a walrus sank a Russian boat? So, even they're fighting back against Russia.
I did not see that.
Yeah, apparently it was a little rubber dinghy, but it still bit it, and it deflated, and they got stuck.
That's impressive.
I mean,
Well, Russia has their spy, what are they? Whales?
Belugas?
Yeah, and then they went and befriended the Norwegians
yeah,
because it was sad and alone.
it defected. So we just like, no, you need to leave. It's like, no, you're my friends. I'm not gonna go.
Please take this thing off me.
And then they made a new pen for them so they couldn't escape.
I've seen. I saw walrus in the wild because one decided to go and sleep on an island down in Cornwall for a bit, and they're real big. I thought I was like, it just looks like a giant canoe.
It's shocking how large a lot of mammals are. And it's one of those things that was even talked about in some of the talks over the past few days. Like, the reality is, if we have future projections for size of mammals, it's just going to be the cow is the largest mammal.
Yes, the cow is the largest.
That was today, wasn't it?
I don't know, but it's only because we want it.
Yeah.
But the cow will get bigger because we get better at making the animals we want bigger. Like chickens.
Bigger.
Or British swans.
This one got too big, it'd probably eat you.
It just starts crushing horses with its feet.
We do terrible things with birds in England. We have pelicans in Regent's Park, and the only reason they're there is to eat the pigeons, and occasionally they do it, and people freak out.
I feel like there must be a better way than to get rid of pigeons than having them
Well, they
violently
had an old
eaten by
lady
other
at one
birds.
point, and she swallowed.
It's great, because the pigeon should just be there, and the pelican will walk up and just go, "Oof," and this penguin is now just gone. Not penguin, that would be terrible. this pigeon is now just gone, and all the other pigeons don't give a shit. They just keep eating the seeds.
What about cats? Why haven't you heard of cats before? Why did you immediately go to pelicans?
Because the pelicans will also eat the cats.
Solving two birds with one stone.
No, I
Or
don't know.
two stones with one bird, actually.
I don't know if pelicans have eaten cats. I'm sure they could if they wanted to, but I've also seen a cat smacking an American alligator in the face.
Yeah.
So,
Which is bold.
yeah, cats might not be super smart. Yeah, no. Look, it's Victoria, so it's like because she could.
We good?
Mhm.
Alright.